The Auburn Tigers host the Florida Gators in an epic top 10 matchup.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yes, this is a crossover edition of Locked On Auburn and Locked On Gators. I'm Zach Blackerby, host of Locked On Auburn. Brandon Olsen is the host of Locked On Gators. Thank you so much for making either one of our shows your first listen every single day. Brandon, the Florida Gators head to Neville Arena to take on the top-ranked Auburn Tigers, number 1 versus number 6, in a game that is going to be crucial for SEC tournament seeding and perhaps even NCAA tournament seeding. Florida trying to get one of those coveted 1 seeds. Auburn in a good spot to hold on to one. The biggest thing you're looking at from the Florida point of view is what tomorrow?
How they stop Johni Broome. I feel like just watching, and I was watching him after Florida played Vanderbilt on Tuesday, and I was live during the game, and I was like, Johni Broome's just eating right now. Like especially at the start of that game, he just does so much. And Florida's bigs have been wildly inconsistent with whether they're going to be physical at the point of attack, whether they're going to actually box out other bigs and make things happen there. And so I think Johni Broome is just the guy that I'm looking at, where I don't think you could stop him. I think that's a stupid thing to think, but just so much of what Auburn does, I feel like runs through him. And so being able to stop him or slow him down has to be priority here for the Florida Gators.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a scrappy, physical game. Both teams rated very high when you look at analytics and defense, and obviously the offenses are good too. But I think this is going to be a physical game. I mean, that's how we've seen other SEC teams try to knock off Auburn so far. I mean, we saw with Oklahoma earlier this week. I think physical, if you want to take down the Giant, which right now Auburn has the 1 next to their name, you've got to be physical. And I think Florida does have the dudes to do that and perhaps make Auburn uncomfortable.
Yeah. When we talk about getting physical, it's just, I keep, and this is absolutely a flaw with me, where I think I see a bad thing and I can't let go of it until you prove to me that you can break that mold. And for Florida, I keep looking at the Missouri game a few weeks ago, and Missouri came out and they were just physical as all hell with Florida. And it just gave Florida fits. And I feel like that was kind of Missouri's game plan with it.
Could your perception of that be a little different though? Because when they played, I don't think we realized how good Missouri was. I mean, Auburn opened conference play against Missouri, and they took care of business against them. But I remember doing the post game of that. I'm like, I think that team's good. Like, I think that team did a lot of things right, and then I think they've exceeded what my expectations were for them. But I mean, Missouri's a good basketball team. So, like, is that big of a deal? I guess would be my question.
But even if, let's say, Missouri's a top 25 team. Can we agree with that? Okay, sure. Missouri's a top 25 team. They're physical as hell. Now you're about to play the number 1 team that's physical as hell. And sure. That's where I get my cause for concern. It's not like you're facing right now a borderline playoff team or borderline tournament team. You're facing Auburn. They're right. Number 1. They're physical, and that kind of stuff where you face a physical team that's actually good at basketball too, not just we're gritty. That's what gives me cause for concern, is facing a good physical basketball team.
You need a full roster. You need a full roster to hang with this Auburn team. I mean, they throw so much at you on both sides of the floor. I mean, we mentioned Johni Broome, which he will be the best player on the floor on Saturday. But, I mean, even the guard play, when you look at Denver Jones, both offensively and defensively, Miles Kelly, it seems like he was battling a wrist injury early in the season, and he seems much more healthy now over his last stretch. Todd, one of the best freshmen in the country, continues to get more and more acclimated to the speed of the SEC. And Chad Baker-Mazara is extremely physical and can beat you in different ways. And we haven't even gotten to, the other bigs with like Dylan Cardwell and Chaney Johnson. They throw so much at you on both sides of the floor, Brandon. And there are some injury questions for Florida. What are you hearing? What are you expecting for the availability of some of these kind of questionable players on Florida's team?
So Walter Clayton Jr., who got injured last Saturday against Tennessee. Yeah. He's back this week. He was a game time decision on Tuesday against Vanderbilt. And my theory was they're resting him against Vanderbilt and going to have him ready for Auburn because you need him ready for Auburn.
Yeah,
and so
sense.
he's already announced that he's going to play in this game. So the expectation is he's going to be full go. But Elijah Martin, shooting guard, and the 1B to Walter Clayton's 1A is questionable. He got hurt diving for a ball against Vanderbilt on just what was a wild possession where there was like 4 people diving. It just got crazy. And he left the game, came back, and was essentially just a spot-up shooter for the rest of the game at that point, which isn't exactly his game. So he was a relative non-factor for the most part. Hit a couple big shots, but for the most part was a relative non-factor. And if he can't go, like let's be honest, this game, Florida's likely not winning. They can win. I'm not taking that away from them at all.
Sure.
But they're likely, like, they're going to be the underdog in this game. And to not have Elijah Martin, who has proven crucial for this team throughout the entirety of the season, is going to be brutal. And even if he does play, how healthy is he going to be? Is he going to be a spot-up shooter?
Yeah, I mean, that was going to be my next question. Let's assume both of these guys play some role. I mean, what percentage can we expect him, even with Clayton? Like, he's not going to be 100%, right? Like, or I think he probably would have played earlier this week.
Yeah, can't be. I feel like if he was 100%, they would have been like, oh yeah, like he's in, like he's in on the Vanderbilt game, and he's here, or at least
and I guess the thing I'm going to be looking at early, and I got a feeling we're going to figure this out quickly, of like how back to 100 or how close to 100% he is like, will Auburn be able to put somebody not Denver Jones on him? Because if that's the case, they can put Denver Jones on whoever this coaching staff thinks is the second best scoring wing, and then maybe you see Miles Kelly on Clayton. I think that would present a major issue for Florida if that were to happen.
Yeah, if you could put Denver Jones on, let's say Will Richard. Will Richard had 21 points against Vanderbilt. He was a big driving factor in that win. Without Walter Clayton, without Elijah Martin being healthy, it was like, hey, who's going to step up? And it was Will Richard. If you could put Denver Jones on Will Richard, Elijah Martin maybe going to be relegated to spot-up duty again, and then whoever you want to put on Walter Clayton Jr. could really slow down the offense. I do think that Florida's offense game plan is going to be, we're going to try to get as many screens for Walter Clayton Jr. as possible, even if he isn't 100%. If he can get around screens, get an open shot, and be able to pull up off that, I think that would be a big game plan for Todd Golden, to just get Walter Clayton Jr. looks. But even then, this whole team's been so hot and cold shooting that it would concern me.
Yeah. All right. So let's share our picks and predictions and a whole lot more next, right here on this crossover edition of Locked on Auburn and Locked on Gators. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks. Brandon, can you imagine playing daily fantasy anywhere other than with our friends at Prize Picks?
Never in my life.
No way. Hey, right now with Prize Picks, you can pick more or less on at least 2 players' stat projections. And if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. Prize Picks even has a free pick for the big game where Patrick Mahomes needs to only throw for 1 yard to win. I bet Patrick Mahomes throws for more than 1 yard in the big game Sunday.
Really? You think so?
Just a hunch.
Bold take.
So if you pair that with one more, you're already cashing out. So download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Brandon, can you imagine wagering on sports anywhere other than our friends?
Actually, no, never. I have FanDuel open right now.
Yeah, you talk about FanDuel lines all the time in our group text, and I'm all for it. If you have an opinion on this game, whether you're pro Auburn or pro Florida, as we record this, Auburn is a 9.5-point favorite. That seems like a lot to me. That's a lot. When you're talking about 1 versus 6, 9.5 is a lot of points. So if you feel passionate about that one way or the other, head over to FanDuel right now. And of course, they're the official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 59 as well. You can bet $5, and if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel, you get $200 in bonus bets. What else do you want? Bet with FanDuel, the official partner of Super Bowl 59. We just said it, Brandon. Auburn, a 9.5-point favorite in this game. I think Auburn wins this game. I don't know if they cover that. That's a lot of points.
Yeah, 9.5 is a lot. I feel like, for me, I'm going to take Florida to cover this, mostly because, like you mentioned earlier, and like we agree on, I feel like this is going to be a pretty gritty game. like you're going to have to grind it out. And for me, when I think of a gritty game and I say, yeah, 10 points, that doesn't sound like it was super gritty. It sounds like one team kind of ran away with it. And I do think we'll see a pretty gritty game here. I think that Auburn wins by 6 or 7. I think is more.
I think that's kind of where I'm at too. Unless, Florida's healthier than we realize, they play through some pain and a few guys get hot, which we've seen happen against Auburn. But yeah, I think this is going to be a battle. And then I think with about 5 or 6 minutes left to go, I think a team's going to pull away. That is my guess. Something that's interesting, I think both of these teams have the opportunity to make a major statement when you look at just the pecking order of the conference. I talked about this on a show earlier this week, Brandon, but just the nature of the SEC right now and how so many ranked teams are on the road this Saturday. Obviously, Florida being one of them. Tennessee, number 4, is on the road. Number 10, Texas A&M is on the road against number 15, Missouri. Obviously, number 6, Florida on the road at number 1, Auburn. Number 22, Mississippi State's on the road. Number 3, Bama's on the road against an Arkansas team who's won 2 straight. Number 25, Ole Miss. If Florida can get a win, there's a logjam of like 6-win teams right now in the SEC. That gives Florida a great shot to get one of those double buys in the SEC tournament. Also a great resume punch there. But also like Auburn on the other side of it, if they can win this game, because like some of these road teams are going to lose this Saturday. It'd be shocking if they didn't.
Imagine if they didn't. Imagine if a road sweep.
That would be crazy. That would be absolutely crazy. That also would mean that South Carolina beats Kentucky, which would be super, super fun. I think we all be okay with that. But I just think whoever wins this is going to feel like this. Obviously, either you beat number 1 or you beat number 6. Like that's a huge win anyway. But I think with everything happening in the conference around them that could potentially happen on Saturday, it's going to be a big deal.
Yeah, I think it's a huge win if Florida can beat Auburn. Obviously, beating number 1, whether you're home or away. If
Doesn't
you can
matter.
beat number 1, that's incredible. And for Auburn, like I feel like for Auburn, it's a worst case. Let's say you lose hypothetically. Okay. You still just lost to the number 6 team in the country. Like it's not like you dropped to some scrub or anything like that. So I feel like Auburn's in a pretty good spot. Or actually, I'll say this: I feel like both teams are in a pretty good spot as far as like.
I agree with that.
Hey, if we lose, we lost to a really good team. The goal is for Florida, I think, at this point with the injuries they have. Don't lose ugly. Like don't lose a bad, ugly game. Like you can't have a relapse what you did against Tennessee last week when you lost 64-44 and no one was hitting shots.
Right.
You can't have that. But if this is a close game, I think both teams genuinely have the possibility of walking away from this and saying, you know what, like we lost, but it was to a really good team in a close game. And I'd be not the sky is falling about it.
How do you feel about do you think the relationship between the Pearls and Todd Golden's family? Was it last year or 2 years ago? They went to Gainesville and they like had dinner together like the night before. It was pretty unique situation, but clearly these families are very close. Not just the 2 head coaches, but the 2 families are close. You got to think this means a little bit more to them. I kind of wonder how that impacts the game on Saturday.
I want to know if it makes them more competitive or
I would think so.
Yeah, I would think so. Like if you and I win against each other in something, I'd be like, oh yeah, I need to beat my friend.
We're close. We talk all the time. Like, yeah, this means something. Sure.
Yeah. I feel like I need to. And also like I've always liked the Bruce Pearl, Todd Golden ties of just obviously Todd Golden used to be an assistant under Bruce Pearl. So it's like that little tie. And you mentioned at the beginning of the show, both these teams, analytics say they're great. And it's like, that's Todd Golden's whole shtick. Like that's his whole thing is coached under Bruce Pearl, big on analytics and good friends, or at least, extended family basically at this point.
What it seems like.
Yeah. I feel like it has to add a lot to it. Just from the emotional aspect that I think a lot of people don't look at.
Over under how many Auburn fans message you if Auburn wins this game?
Ooh.
You have made no friends.
Oh no,
I
have been aggressively anti-Auburn strictly because of you and your listener base.
Sure. Stephen Willis is appears to be public enemy 1, and I think he's okay with that. I think you're 2.
I think I'm 2 as well. I think that Daryl liking me, or at least not hating me, helps.
I think Daryl likes you. Yeah.
At least with that. But yeah, I think that I'd say I would get tagged at least 6 times by your Discord.
Okay.
I'll say that. At least 6. Because they'll tag me before, Auburn goes up 2-0 and I'm getting tagged. Like it's gonna happen.
That's true.
It's fine.
Let them feel the love either way, folks. Let them feel the love either way. All right, for the Auburn folks who want more Florida content, more Brandon Olsen, where do they get it?
You can go to Locked On Gators every day. Look at that. And then if you're a miserable Giants fan, go to New York Giants on SI.
Yeah, there you go. And if you're a Florida fan, you want more Auburn coverage for some reason, just search Locked On Auburn. However you're consuming Locked On Gators, you can check out Locked On Auburn there as well. For Brandon Olsen and Locked On Gators, I'm Zach Blackerby, host of Locked On Auburn, and this has been a Locked On crossover presented by the Locked On Podcast Network.